dźwiękiem kostka sprawdzona?
Poczekaj, no to zobaczymy. Zupełnie troszkę tak, żeby było, żeby... No, cofnę troszkę. Dobra, i to jeszcze bardziej tak, żeby było tak ładnie SGH widać. O, nie, jeszcze trochę. Do siebie. Jeszcze do siebie. Świetnie. Tak? Zyskamy na tle. No.
Nie, bez tej kostki, schowaj. Nie potrzebujemy głośnika żadnego, bo tylko popsuje.
Moderuję to ze strony. Proszę Państwa, będzie ze strony służb NATO, proszę jeszcze chwilę cierpliwości, Pan Mark Rютте chwileczkę potrzebował prywatności i za chwilę do Państwa tutaj wróci. Ja nie będę tego prowadził ani nikt z Ministerstwa Spraw Zagranicznych, tylko właśnie służby prasowe NATO i będą, proszę, nie sądzę, bo myślę, że już będą musieli sobie Państwo sami radzić z tym. Nie byliśmy o to proszeni, bo jeżeli by tak, to ja bym ich tutaj poprosił. Natomiast co do czasu, to pewnie Państwo się dowiedzą, ile będzie poświęcone, ale z tego co wiem, Pan Sekretarz Generalny podróżuje własnym samolotem, znaczy natowskim, więc pewnie da Państwu szansę zadać pytania. I raz jeszcze bardzo dziękuję za obecność, żeby sprawdzić, czy jest... On jest wyższy ode mnie o 8 cm, on ma 1,93 m, tak. Ja mam 1,85 m, czyli troszkę wyżej. Miałem, nie wiem co się stało.
So I'd love to hear
Shall I start?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your questions, but let me just say one thing, that whilst I was speaking, the news came out about 4 American soldiers who were killed in an incident in Lithuania. It is still early news, so we do not know the details, but obviously this is really terrible news, and our thoughts are with the families and loved ones. I sent a message to the American Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, that of course our thoughts and prayers are with the families and with the United States. So I just wanted to make that remark at the beginning, and now of course open to questions.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you so much. Sasha Farlow, TVP World. In your speech you said that there needs to be a durable peace, a durable ceasefire. And we've had already now the past previous ceasefire attempts, supposed to be 30 years against infrastructure, that didn't last very long. We have another one, maritime, supposed to come together. That doesn't seem to have lasted as long as well. You know Mr. Putin as well. You've met him in the past. So what does durable mean here? How can we negotiate with someone like that? What's your comment on that?
Yes, when I'm saying you need a durable, lasting peace / ceasefire, it is of course when you have a full ceasefire / a peace deal. What the Americans are now doing step by step is trying to get there. I commend their efforts. But obviously what we need to make sure of is that when this war ends one day, that Putin will not try this again. That's what I mean with durable. That's what I mean with lasting. What we are now seeing, of course, are the first attempts, and very important attempts, by the Americans to make sure that we, step by step, get to that situation of a peace. And then we have to make sure that that peace is lasting. So I'm not talking about every in-between step, because I don't want to comment on that, because all my comments could then be unhelpful in the American endeavor to bring Ukraine to this lasting peace.
Do you see Russia making a good faith effort in the negotiations, and should NATO allies consider easing sanctions as Russia is demanding?
Well, again, it is the Americans now leading the negotiations, and I think it is important that President Trump broke the deadlock here, and therefore was able to start these peace negotiations now, and be helpful here to bring Ukraine to this lasting peace. This is very much steered by the US. We need their leadership here. They are providing that leadership. Europeans are informed and involved wherever they can. We as NATO get regular updates, but in the end it is the Americans steering this, and that means that I really respect their role, and I don't think it helps them if I start to comment from the sideline on each in-between step. Let's first make sure that we will get somewhere. More generally speaking about Putin, but the Americans know this, we all know this, it's difficult to negotiate with him. So let's see where we get, and again, it's good that the US is taking this forward.
Arthur? Can we still trust Americans after Singapore?
Absolutely, can we trust the Americans? Yes, they are our biggest partner, the biggest ally within NATO. They have freed my country together with Poland and Canada after the Second World War. Yes, absolutely, we can trust the Americans.
Sir, to be honest, Polish people are really afraid about this, what's going on between Russia, between America, about this reset. Are you planning to strengthen Polish border to give us more NATO soldiers on the eastern flank?
Could you again tell me why the Polish people are...
Yeah, Polish people are more confused, more afraid about this reset between US and Russia. And are you planning to strengthen Poland border?
Okay, but I would argue that it is good that the Americans are trying to do this, because we have seen hundreds of thousands of people dying or seriously wounded. We have seen whole cities getting destroyed in Ukraine. We cannot, going forward, accept this for basically continuing for the next couple of years. So every endeavor, every serious try, and in this case the American president breaking that deadlock, I think is important. So give him some confidence. Let's be confident that they will do this in a way which will bring Ukraine to a lasting peace. I'm optimistic about it, really.
Mr. Secretary, do you think that in context, of course, of full membership of Ukraine in NATO, do you think that this membership is just around the corner, or since October your first visit in Kiev, or do you think is it more far away than it might seem? Thank you. Well,
what we said as NATO collectively is that in the future Ukraine should become a member, and there is an irreversible path towards membership. That's what we established as a collective view within NATO over the years, and it was again very much stressed in the Washington summit. But we never said that membership by Ukraine of NATO would be part of a peace deal. And what the Americans have said is that they take the view that when they will bring Ukraine to a lasting peace and working hard on that, NATO membership is not part of that peace deal. But it is totally acceptable, because we never promised Ukraine to become a member of NATO as part of a peace deal. It's very hard for me now to predict when in the future NATO membership for Ukraine will happen. But I know that we work hard together to make sure that Ukraine is as much as possible interoperable. We because of this terrible war ongoing in Ukraine, through this center here which was opened 2 weeks ago here in Poland, we are working to capture all the lessons from that war. NATO is very much helping to get all the support and supply into Ukraine organized. So we're working very closely together. But on the full NATO membership, I cannot predict when that will happen.
There is I'm representing University Quarterly.
Yes, very good. And what a beautiful institution.
I have a question concerning the change of the new American administration narrative in terms of war in Ukraine and its attitude towards Russia. How do you perceive it? Just as a change of narrative, the negotiation game, so to speak, or a radical change of the reality in the field of international security? And if the latter, how does the alliance intend to respond to these new circumstances in the long term? Thank you.
Again, there is a new American administration, and they have embarked on a process which I completely support to bring Ukraine to a lasting peace. Somebody had to break the deadlock. Donald Trump broke the deadlock. We have seen, as I said to your colleagues, hundreds of thousands of people dying and getting seriously wounded, whole cities getting destroyed. It is heartbreaking. So somebody had to break the deadlock. In the end, these big issues in the world need American leadership to bring them to a successful conclusion. And they are working very hard, and they keep Europeans informed, they keep NATO updated, etc., etc. So I think that is positive, because what we were doing was of course necessary, supporting Ukraine in the endeavor, in the war, and we are still doing that. Still, European countries, US, we're all supplying our weapons, intelligence, etc. into Ukraine. That's crucial for them to stay in the fight. But we also want to end that fight. And let's hope we get there.
Do you think that Europe should develop its own joint European defense forces? Is it real? And should we do that as Europe?
Well, I don't believe in a European army. What I do believe in is European countries working together when it comes to making sure that, for example, the European Union, with all its power to steer the internal market, to make sure that therefore defense industrial production can accelerate in a way that it has as much as possible open relationship with Turkey and Norway and the United Kingdom and the US, because we need this whole defense industrial base to work together. There Europe has a clear advantage and a clear goal. But I think in the end, nations want to keep their sovereign right deciding on their own military. And that is the basis on which NATO was founded, that you have sovereign allies, democracies working together and making sure that when one is attacked, we will come to the rescue of that one country. And that if that happens, of course, we have the plans in place to make sure that we work together to make sure that we can defend that country and can defend NATO territory. But I think there's a clear division. NATO is about standard setting. NATO is about the capabilities we need. The European Union is absolutely about the internal market, getting the internal market working in a way that it will ramp up defense industrial production, helping the European countries to spend more on defense, and of course when it comes to military mobility, the European Union plays a big role.
What do you think of the proposal of the Italian Prime Minister that Article 5 will automatically apply to Ukraine if Russia attacks the country again after a possible ceasefire?
Well, I don't generally want to comment on all the proposals. It's positive that leaders are thinking within the concept of the need for a durable, lasting peace in Ukraine, how to best achieve this. And what we have seen is various views on this. And of course there is the French-British initiative. We know the Italian Prime Minister has some clear thoughts. We know that the present German government also has its views on this, and it's good to have these different scenarios. Probably they can somehow also work in conjunction going forward. But I don't want to comment on every initiative. What I want to do is to say it's positive when these ideas get to the table, and they all work in the same direction, which is to make sure that the war ends. And when the war ends, that Ukraine is, that peace, that ceasefire, the peace deal is lasting, and that Putin will never try this again.
Does NATO see the conscription as a viable way of strengthening its defense capabilities? And would you consider actually encourage allies to reintroduce or to reinstate mandatory service?
These are really national decisions, how to make sure that you have the men and women in uniform at a sufficient amount of them to make sure that you can defend your own country and deliver as a country your commitments to the overall NATO commitment as a country. And you will see conscription, you will see other models, nations and allies learn from each other. But NATO has no particular view on yes or no conscription. It's really up to the national governments to decide that. What NATO wants to achieve is to make sure that collectively we have what we need in terms of the military equipment, but also in terms of the amount of men and women in uniform, well trained, well prepared to defend every inch of NATO territory.
European officials actually express quite a lot of criticism on the peace talks. And also if you look right now at the agreement regarding the Black Sea ceasefire, there is a list of conditions attached to this agreement. So some are arguing that Putin is basically trying to play Trump. What is your view on that?
Well, Trump will not be played with. He is his own man. He is an experienced, not only businessman, but also politician. He has been President of the United States for 4 years. He was re-elected with a clear popular mandate. He has a clear view on the need to end this war, and I'm with him because this war has got to end. And it can only end with clear US leadership being provided. That's exactly what he is doing. And obviously this will not happen in 1 hour or in 1 week. This takes time. And that's exactly what the Americans are doing. They were sitting there for 12 hours negotiating with the Russians. And then they had separate negotiations with the Ukrainians. We have all followed this in the news. So the amount of effort they are putting into this, because they really want to bring this to a lasting end, I think is important. And we should applaud them for that.
You're very optimistic. Your comments are very optimistic when you talk about unity in the U.S. and Europe. But what we see there in those conversations are complete disdain for European allies, that they're freeloaders, that they're pathetic. And I was wondering if you could react to those words.
But I don't want to react to these leaks. I don't think that is appropriate. But more generally, there is in the U.S., we know this, and I understand it. And I'm not going into some of the specifics in these signal messages, but more generally, we know for a reason that the US has 2 big irritants with the European allies, and we are working on them and redressing them because this alliance is totally different from the NATO of 10 years ago. One is that they pay much more for the collective defense than the Europeans are paying. Well, Poland and Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia are leading the way, and now other European allies stepping up. We will make sure not because the US wants us to do this, but because of the Russian threat that he will pay more. But the effect of paying more will be a fairer burden sharing with the US. That is irritant number one. And irritant number two, which I addressed in my speech, is that when European countries get involved in collective endeavors, that sometimes you will have all these caveats, all these red lines, etc. And I think we should get rid of those and make sure that whenever allies work together in collective initiatives, that we all share the same burden, that we all do the heavy lifting together. And I think these are two irritants the Americans have, which I totally understand. Not going into the specifics, again, of what we saw in these messages, because that's not up to me to comment upon, but more generally understanding some of these US irritants. And we are addressing them because we are spending much more, and we are working on, as I said, on the lethality of NATO, which is crucial.
You said that the relations with Russia should be normalized once the war is over, and I am wondering, what do you mean when you say normalize, also bearing in mind that the ICC's arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin is still there, is still applicable?
Well, there will be no normalization of relations with Russia when the war is over. That will not happen. That will take decades, because there is a total lack of confidence. The threat is still there. As I said in my speech, even if the war comes to a conclusion, the Russian threat is still there. They are building a war economy. They are spending so much money on defense. They are producing in 3 months an ammunition what the whole of the alliance is producing in a year. We are ramping up our ammunition production. Luckily, we have to. So there's no way that we can normalize relations with Russia after the war is over. You hope in many decades from now and post-Putin that there might be some, but I mean, I'm not optimistic.
Secretary General, one brief question here. Secretary General, once more, you had the chance to speak to both President Trump and also President Putin in your time also as Prime Minister. Are these two individuals, both very strong personalities, I'll say that much, but are these two leaders capable of coming to terms? Are they able to sit on the same table and able to respect also what comes out of that and include others, not just the two of them?
Well, on President Trump, I have lots of respect for him because he's a deal maker. He was re-elected, and I'm a politician, so I really respect the success he had in the November elections, winning the popular vote, winning both houses of the United States Congress, winning the White House, and getting there for the second time. He is a deal maker. He wants to get things done, and we need that type of American leadership. So I'm very positive about him as President of the United States. And you know about Putin, I worked with him for many years. Let's not get into character descriptions of that guy. But let's not be naive. I'm not naive. Trump is not naive. We all should not be naive about Putin. But I really think it is good that the US tries to get this war done, that we can bring Ukraine to a durable peace.
Could there be any role for NATO that would address his concerns about this vast space that's sort of unprotected and Denmark's concerns?
Yes, well, I got a question in the audience just a second ago, and there are 7 Arctic countries. That's the US itself, Canada, and of course 5 in Europe, Iceland, Denmark because of Greenland, and Norway, Sweden and Finland. And clearly what we are seeing is that these 7 countries are more and more working together to confront the threat posed by China and Russia over there. And NATO will get more and more involved, is my prediction. And this was clearly also an ask from the American president when I visited him, and you could see that in the presser where he said, Mark, NATO should get more involved. And we will do that to make sure that these 7 Arctic countries working together. This very practical issue of the icebreakers. Some might think it is a detail, but it is not a detail, because we need icebreakers. We have a lack of them, so we have to make sure we get more of those. And more generally, we have to make sure that we can push back on the fact that the Russians and the Chinese are really trying to gain influence in the Arctic, and we have to prevent that. One final question, or do we have to go? One final question, then we have to catch the plane. Please.
going to withdraw. And, well, is it just not timely anymore? Do we really need to ban landmines to defend ourselves, or are there other modern weapons?
Yeah, this is the Landmine Convention, the Ottawa Convention. This is really up to individual allies to decide on that. And I have to prevent NATO becoming a commentator on all these things, so I won't do that. I totally respect Poland's and the three Baltic countries' right to do this. And they have their reasons, and I completely respect that, and it is within their remit to take those decisions. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time in this beautiful city of Warsaw. Thank you. And this great university.
Falcon, il s'était déjà posé pour aller à Berlin. Et lui, pour aller à Chaumont, il a dû aller en commun. Il ne posait pas. Donc on avait l'interdiction de faire son arrivée. Parce que, bon, ouais, c'est pas nécessaire.
pardon, c'est moi.
C'est marrant, tiens. Comme ça. Ouais. Ah bah oui. Ah, tiens, Mayotte, c'est ton tour. On l'a fait.
Spécial France. Réunion avec le ministre des Affaires.
Spécial France secret.
Je sais pas ce que ça veut dire spécial France.
On va cadrer comme ça.
Gratos, il n'était jamais sorti. La meilleure pièce.
On va le faire. On attend juste l'arrivée du lait.
C'est fait deux.
Là, on restera dans l'histoire.
Ouais.
C'est fait payer.
Tiens, je vais te la mettre bien pour vous.
J'aimerais bien quand même être en France la prochaine ça qu'ils n'ont pas voulu me laisser rentrer tout à l'heure.
Já incluí. Já incluí. Ah, vous allez me regretter.
tous sur un peu, mais je sais pas exactement ce que je fais. Ça dépend de... Ouais, ça change, hein. Ça dépend. Vraiment, tu as fait les gars, tu as le circuit. D'accord, tu vas faire un truc sur Zelensky ou un truc sur Macron? Là, on fait un truc sur Zelensky et Macron. Sur Z et Macron. Ah bah, on va voir les résultats. C'est Louis.
Voilà.
madame.
Ouais.